In 2025, the conversation is all about the promise and peril of artificial intelligence. We debate its ethics, we marvel at its power, and we quietly worry about where it's all heading. But what if I told you the most chillingly accurate warning about a future war with machines didn't come from a scientist, a filmmaker, or even a tech billionaire? What if I told you it came from a rock band 30 years ago? Because you guys requested it, today we're going to talk about the story of 4 musicians from Los Angeles that stared into the chaos of their own time and saw the future. This is the story of Fear Factory's album Demanufacture. Before we get started, a quick word from today's video sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by private internet access. Ever feel like browsing the internet is like shouting your secrets in a crowded room? That's because without protection, your personal data is out in the open for anyone, hackers, the government, internet service providers to see. But there's a simple way to shield your digital life: private internet access. So what is a VPN? A VPN is a virtual private network. It's an app that hides your IP address and encrypts your internet connection. Think of it as sending your messages through a secure private tunnel, so only you and your intended recipient can see them. With private internet access, your data is protected by world-class encryption, whether you're at home, in a coffee shop, or using public Wi-Fi at the airport. Hackers on the same network won't be able to steal your passwords, keystrokes, or photos. For someone like me, I spend a lot of time at the coffee shops writing my script and editing my videos, and I'm always using public Wi-Fi. Since I started using private internet access, I've never worried about my security or privacy again. Private internet access keeps my connection hidden, even on risky networks. But that's not the only reason to use a VPN. Do you want more entertainment? Do you want to access region-locked content? Well, private internet access is for you then. Stream your favorite shows on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and more no matter where you are. I've had a number of my subscribers asking me to do a story on the group Big Star. Now, Hulu has a documentary on Big Star, but because I live in Canada, I'm region-locked from accessing it. But with private internet access, I can now watch the documentary and use it for research on my own video. Plus, you can get access to sporting events that typically have regional blackouts. It's one of the few VPNs that supports peer-to-peer file sharing. And here's what really sets private internet access apart. It's the world's most transparent VPN provider with over 30 million downloads. They never record or store user data. Their no logs policy has been proven in court, and it's been verified by a third-party audit. That's real privacy that you can trust. Don't just take my word for it. Private internet access is rated excellent on Trustpilot by over 8,500 users. Protect your entire household or workspace no matter how many gadgets you have. Right now, you can get private internet access for just $2.03 a month. That's 83% off plus 4 months extra absolutely free. And it's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support. Go to the URL down below to get 83% off private internet access and 4 months free. Let's get back to our video. Many industrial bands that emerged in the 80s began their careers making electronic or alternative rock music before blending their sound with metal. Fear Factory was among the earliest extreme metal groups to experiment with electronic elements and sampling. In LA in 1989, a young guitarist named Dino Cazares and a drummer named Raymond Herrera wanted a new sound. They aimed for a fusion of death metal's brutal high-speed aggression and the cold mechanical pulse of industrial music inspired by bands like Godflesh and Ministry. They recruited vocalist Burton C, whose unique ability would become the band's secret weapon. Cazares recalled meeting Bell for the first time, telling John Wiederhorn, "I first heard Burton singing in the shower in the late 80s. We both lived in an 8-bedroom house in Hollywood that this guy rented out to starving musicians. Bert's in there singing some U2 songs, and I thought, hey, it sounds pretty good. Later we met and started talking, and I found out he was into some heavy industrial. I was into grindcore, death metal, and speed metal, so he turned me on to stuff I didn't know, and we decided to start a band together." Bell was living in the house at the time because he was playing in another band, an industrial noise outfit named Hateface. The band ended up splitting, so at that point, Cazares told Bell to come jam with him and their drummer. Fear Factory started out in 1989 under the name Ulceration. Cazares was also friends with Ross Robinson, who was starting out as a producer, and also wanted to start his own label. He even invited the musicians to record at a studio after hearing their demos. They recorded 16 songs in the span of about a week, but the contract Ross offered the group would have given him ownership over everything, so the group's lawyer advised them not to sign the deal. Ross kept the masters while the band retained the rights to those songs, but they couldn't use Ross's versions. They ended up sending a copy of those recordings to Roadrunner Records, which led to their signing.
We were at this convention, and that's how I seen Max, and I played him the demo, and he wouldn't give it to me. But he had a hotel room, and we were in his hotel room when he was listening to it, and I had to wrestle him to get it back. I literally jumped on him on his bed, grabbed the Walkman, and took it from his hands, and got it out of there and put it in my pocket. He's like, I want that, give it. And I'm like, I can't. I'll make you a copy. I'll come back, and I'll make you a copy. But he's like, that day he told Monty, oh, you got to hear Fear Factory. The riffs are killer. The vocals are amazing. You got to listen. So Monty's like, oh, yeah, really? Okay. So Monty up, and that's how we got signed.
Bell's vocal style was quite unique. He didn't just scream, he could shift from a guttural, demonic growl to a soaring melodic, almost angelic clean vocal. In an era of one-dimensional metal singers, this was quite different. People genuinely didn't believe it was just one singer. Cazares told John Wiederhorn, I've heard a lot of people say Burt ripped off Killswitch Engage singer Howard Jones' style. I'm like, well, that was Burt's thing. He was doing that before Howard. After settling on the name Fear Factory, they unleashed their debut album in 1992, Soul of a New Machine. The album brought a new and original approach to extreme metal, blending elements from death metal, grindcore, and industrial genres. It was raw, chaotic, and utterly new. Metal historians credit Fear Factory as being one of the first to extensively mix melodic and growled vocals in the same songs. But while the album established their core DNA, it was still, as Bell himself described it, the band grinding their teeth, trying to find their roots while simultaneously growing them. They were kids learning as they went. The machine was being born, but it wasn't fully formed yet. The real turning point came a year later. Funny enough, the band didn't have a proper bass player for their first recording. According to Cazares, Andrew Shives came in after their first record was done, but he did tour with the band. He and Raymond didn't get along, so after their first record came out, they had to find another bass player. Cazares recalled, a week or two later, Christian came in. Our rehearsal room was in South Central LA, a heavy gang area. Sometimes we'd open the door and hear pop, 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 and we knew someone was getting shot at, so we'd close the door and wait till it was over. During the LA riots, the owner of the place put a sign that read Black-owned business on the door so the building wouldn't be burned down. The band returned in 1993 with a remix EP, Fear Is the Mindkiller. It was a crucial experiment. The band handed their tracks over to Rhys Fulber of the legendary Industrial Act Frontline Assembly, who deconstructed and rebuilt them, injecting a heavy dose of techno as well as electronic texture. The band, who were always fans of Ministry and KMFDM, wanted to integrate more industrial elements into their sounds. This collaboration with Fulber didn't just get them played in industrial clubs, it opened a sonic doorway for them. It showed them the path forward. All the pieces were now on the board. The cinematic scope, the industrial chill, the rhythmic precision, and the dual vocal attack. All they needed now was a story to tell. And in the early 90s, the world around them in Los Angeles was providing one. While sci-fi films like The Terminator and Blade Runner were obvious inspirations, the true fuel for their follow-up release Demanufacture would come from the streets of Los Angeles. Between 1990 and 1995, the city felt like it was collapsing. There were fires, floods, and a massive earthquake. Most famously, the 1992 riots following the Rodney King verdict turned the city into what felt like a war zone. Cazares recalled seeing the National Guard patrolling the streets at night. Bell, meanwhile, added, we were in a hostile environment. LA was just a hotbed of riots. There was so much racial tension. Everyone was a target. No one trusted the police. It was surreal. There were guys on top of buildings with semi-automatic rifles protecting their goods. We were living in Demanufacture times, fighting against the man and struggling for survival. And these guys did struggle for survival. Due to the 1994 earthquake in LA, Cazares and Bell were virtually homeless after their apartment building was damaged. They ended up slumming it on friends' couches, and when they actually reached out to FEMA for help, they got nowhere. This experience played a part in influencing what came next musically. Bell reflected on their goal with their music at the time, telling Kerrang, "After Fear Is the Mindkiller, we wanted a combination of that and Soul of a New Machine, not totally electronic, but with some new developments, and we also wanted to keep the hardcore and metal vibe because we toured with a lot of hardcore bands. I also started expanding my vocals to add a little bit more to it." The band did run into some more roadblocks though. The studios they chose to record presented their own set of challenges. Fear Factory started recording Demanufacture at well-known Chicago track studio, picked largely because of industrial heavyweights like Ministry and Skinny Puppy having used it before. Dino later remembered the place as being in terrible shape, having constant computer crashes during drum tracking and a chaotic atmosphere, and even drug dealing was happening on site, which made the band decide they had to get out of there. They soon headed to Bearsville Studio up in New York's countryside. It was a legendary place where giants like Alice Cooper and the Rolling Stones cut timeless records. Also on the premises when Fear Factory was there was Faith No More, who they hung out with a lot, and Bon Jovi was there as well. The band once again hooked up with acclaimed British metal producer Colin Richardson, returning after shaping the band's debut. But the band hit another snag. Richardson hated Cazares' guitar tone, with the producer telling him to change his gear. Cazares was reluctant. This led to an argument that lasted for weeks before even one note was recorded for the new album. With the budget being used up by studio time and the clock ticking, Cazares wandered down to a fruit stand that was just down the hill from where they were recording, and he ran into Dr. No from Bad Brains. He told him what was going on in the studio, and Dr. No offered his gear for Cazares. With him telling Louder Sound, "The moment I plugged in, boom, the tone was perfect. Everyone was wiping the sweat off their foreheads." And this is what led to the band ultimately deciding that Richardson was not the guy they wanted to mix the record. Cazares had felt that the band had outgrown Richardson's approach, which would have likely made the album sound like any other metal record. The initial mix buried the keyboards, so they took control and worked with Rhys instead, and Greg Reilly, whose first mix nailed the sound that they were looking for. Bell remembered mixing at Enterprise Studio in Burbank, surrounded by a massive screen playing films like Blade Runner and Terminator, or video games which fueled their inspiration and creativity. Fear Factory's influential Demanufacture hit shelves on January 13th, 1995, featuring a striking and boundary-pushing cover art that was done by renowned graphic artist Dave McKean, known for his rich, multi-layered visual style that blends collage, photography, painting, and digital effects. McKean crafted imagery for Demanufacture that fused industrial and biomechanical elements, perfectly reflecting the album's futuristic themes of technology, machinery, and human alienation. The right side is made up of ribs and spinal cord, and a barcode is found on the other side. This wasn't an abstract concept, it was their lived reality. The first line you hear on the album is "desensitized by the values of life." That was what they saw every day, this constant state of urban decay, of societal systems breaking down, which became the backdrop for the album's narrative. It was the perfect real-world dystopia to channel into their art. They took the chaos that they were living through and asked a pretty simple question. What happens when this chaos is organized, controlled, and weaponized by technology? The sound didn't just update the rules of industrial metal, it rewired them completely. The album has a loose concept thread telling the story of an individual's struggle against a machine-controlled totalitarian government. Each song feels like a chapter in the struggle. The very title, Demanufacture, suggests an act of defiance, to break something down to its essential parts, to unmake the system. Cazares told the record newspaper, "It's the soundtrack of a person struggling to exist as an individual where individuality is taboo." Songs like Replica directly echo the themes of Blade Runner, questioning what it means to be human in a world of artificial beings. Self-Biased Resistor is widely interpreted as a song about resisting conformity and oppressive systems, especially those trying to control or dehumanize people. Zero Signal, meanwhile, spoke to the disaffected with its lyrics about losing faith in a world controlled by technology. Its inclusion on the Mortal Kombat movie soundtrack broadened the band's audience significantly, cementing its place in 90s culture. But the album's genius is the man versus machine concept, which was a metaphor. It was about the individual against the system, whether the system was the government, religion, or technology itself. Burton told Kerrang that the album also contained some deeply personal songs, adding the Therapy for Pain was about a dream he had about an ex-girlfriend and being in love and in pain at the same time. What's truly remarkable is how the album's themes have become more and not less relevant over time. 30 years ago, the idea of technology controlling our lives or artificial intelligence making decisions for us was science fiction. Today, it's our daily reality. The album warned of a world where humanity becomes obsolete, a theme they would explore even further on their next album, aptly titled Obsolete. The lyrical content of Demanufacture feels eerily relevant. It talks about desensitization, government lies, and the loss of individuality in a mechanized world. These are the conversations dominating our headlines right now. The album's narrative about a man fighting a machine-controlled government no longer feels like a distant fantasy, but an allegory for our own anxieties about algorithmic control, surveillance, and the dehumanizing nature of modern life. The fusion of human and machine wasn't just in the lyrics, it was in the music itself. They used technology to critique technology. They created a sound that was paradoxically both organic and synthetic, a chrome-plated hybrid of flesh and steel. They played with such mechanical precision that it sounded artificial, yet it was driven by raw human passion. Raymond Herrera's drumming was so precise and fast that it sparked debates among listeners about whether it was a real person or a drum machine. Bell told Kerrang he was a machine himself. He would play with combat boots and leg weights just to build up stamina and strength. People didn't believe he was a real drummer. Dino Cazares' guitar riffs are brutal and perfectly synchronized with the kick drums, creating a percussive machine gun assault. Over this, Rhys Fulber's keyboards and samples add a layer of cold cinematic atmosphere, and at the center of the storm is Burton C. bells switching effortlessly between the voice of the oppressor and the voice of the resistance. As vocalist Burton C. Bell later reflected, what we did was raw and real and instinctive. That raw energy wasn't for the mainstream. Demanufacture is still dangerous. Upon its release, Demanufacture was met with ecstatic reviews. It became a commercial success, earning a gold record in Australia and a silver record in the UK, a major achievement for a band so extreme. Meanwhile, in the US, the album peaked at number 26 on the Billboard Top Heatseekers chart. More importantly, its influence was immediate and undeniable. It's often cited as creating a template that countless bands would follow, shaping the sound of industrial metal, nu metal, and metalcore for years to come. Many regard it not only as Fear Factory's best album, but one of the greatest and most iconic metal albums of all time. It stands as a landmark in metal history. Even today, Dino Cazares says he goes back and listens to the album's structures when he's writing new music, a testament to its groundbreaking composition. But its true legacy isn't just the sound, it's foresight. The album was so ahead of its time that it still sounds like the future. The themes of technological alienation, of the struggle to maintain one's humanity against an encroaching, all-powerful system, resonate more deeply now than they ever did in 1995. Fear Factory didn't just write a great metal record, they authored a warning. They saw the storm on the horizon and set it to music. Fear Factory captured the moment where humanity's relationship with technology shifted from one of simple tools to one of potential equals or superiors. They chronicled the birth of a new kind of fear, a fear not of monsters or demons, but of our own creations looking back at us, a fear that one day we might be demanufactured by the very world we've built. What do you guys think? Was Demanufacture a lucky guess or a true prophecy? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.